Hello everyone and welcome back to Chris Aquatics. Now in today's video we're going to be doing a rescape of my 2-foot aquarium as I'm sick of how it used to look, and it was just a big garage for all different types of plants, but there was nothing really going for it. So I ended up with a ton of Java moss, and whilst saying that I don't want any more, so I'm trying to sell that off to buy new things for this aquarium. But we have a couple of things already. So we have Echinodorus Fancy Twist, I think is what it was called. I've got a couple different plants of that. I think there's 5 or 6 of them. I have different types of boosts in a couple tanks I'm going to be using in here, as well as some crypts as well. Depends on what plants I want to keep. I have no clue yet. I'm definitely going to keep some of the inhabitants, but a lot of the ricefish are going to come out of here. So some of the highlights, we have a big piece of Bolbitus back there. There's a big lump of Wendtii Java Fern also. I have a bunch of Ambulia that I might be using in here. I haven't fully decided yet. I had a bunch of blackbeard algae growing on the sponge, so I killed a lot of that off, and now I just have to clean it off. This was covered in Java moss. As you can see, there's still a couple little spores of it that I need to remove, but I'm going to be using that as kind of a statement piece, I hope. I've got a couple more pieces of different logs that I have. I think most of it's spiderwood. I don't think this is spiderwood though. I don't know what this one's called. I've got a Crypt Balansae in here as well. There's a bunch of different stems on the other side as well, so we're going to be trying to use a bit of everything. Okay guys, so going through this tank and deciding what I want to keep. This is going to be staying in the tank. That will stay in the tank. These are coming out. That's probably the stems at the back are coming out. I'm going to use this, I think. And yeah, I think that's really the only thing staying in here. I'm going to be using this as well, the Echinodorus Fancy Twist. I'm going to use a bunch of those. I've got quite a few at the top at the moment just sitting around. Alright, so the Bolbitus and Wendtii are both gone. They're down here. I've already split some off and put it in my snowball tank, which is over here. I'm going to try to just split this off into a bunch of different tanks just so I have lots of it around. This, I don't know what I'm going to do with yet. Anyway, we're not worrying about that. I'm going to do a water change, and I'm going to focus on sucking up all of this because I don't want this stuff in the tank anymore. So I'll film that and I'll be back. Okay, so water changing this, I'm not really trying to. I'm just trying to remove this stuff. And I can do it with the net, but it's easier to do it this way. So I'm just going to go to the base and you can see it all coming up. There's just so much velocity and snail shells and everything I want out of here. So, probably the fastest way I'd get it done. I don't care if I suck a little bit of substrate, it's just a lot faster this way. That's the way I'm doing it. I used to be a big fan of like Java moss in general and Substrate, but now that I've just ended up with so much of it, I've become incredibly sick of it. So I just end up removing it all. It's just easier that way. Okay guys, so this is after doing the gravel vac of the base. Now of course it's still stirred up and everything needs to settle. We're going to have to go at it one more time eventually. What we're going to do is we're going to cut the tops of these stems off as they look good as the base don't. So hopefully we can just get new roots on those, as that wasn't getting much light wedged in the corner. The ones at the back right, I've done a lot better though. So we're going to figure out something with the stems for the whole background, and then we're going to plant the front. Okay, so a couple of different things that we've done. So I pulled out sponge filter because we need to do a clean on it. So I'm gonna do another water change and use some tank water to clean that out. This was actually growing on the back of it, which is cool. So I think it's a baby to the larger one. There's a couple of different stems that were also growing on the back of it, like this here. What we're going to do basically is have the sponge back right, hide it with some stems so you can't see it, and then we're going to plant the left side of the tank. So forest and then planted section. That's the vibe. Okay, so we did a half water change. We have cleaned the entire sponge, and we have all the fish still in here. Added some aquarium salt to calm everyone down, and we're pulling out a good amount of the baby Medaka. Probably just keep the adults in here. Majority of the plants are out. They're all in here. Some of them are going to go back in, some of them aren't. I kept stems at the back left in there just because they're going to stay. I'm going to trim them up and plant them better, but no point getting rid of the main root system. But yeah, this is what we're at so far. Okay, so I went ahead and I removed all the babies, and now we just have the adults and a couple that are just reaching adulthood or sort of like juveniles. Now, all of the Bristlenose just keeps stirring up the tank, so I'm going to try to remove as many snails as possible, and then I'm going to put the sponge in the back right, hide it with the heater, and we're going to escape. Okay, so the water change was last night, and I've left it overnight to clear up. It looks a lot better now, so we're going to try to keep them in the corner and hide them. I'm going to have to set up the cave for the Bristlenose because the male has been sitting in it for ages, and he's not going to leave, so I'm going to try to build the scape around that, and I'll show you what I've got to work with. Okay, so I'm outside and I'm trying to figure out a design for the driftwood. So far I've connected these two pieces together with the tissue paper method. It's going to focus on it, you can kind of see. I didn't use too much and it's very hidden, but it's going to kind of focus from this side. So I'm going to keep working on it and I'll see what I've come up with. Okay, so this is connecting 3 pieces of the wood. So we've got this design so far, which is looking great. Now I'm going to try and incorporate the rest and see what I can make up. Okay, so it's been about an hour of tweaking and I've got to this. So we're going to go with this. The parts of the tissue paper I'm going to be hiding with different plants, which will be good. And yeah, we're going to go with this design. Now, instead of trying to sink this wood properly, I'm just going to do this. So I attached it to some rock. I boiled everything so the wood's ready. And now I'm just gonna have to plant this out. Okay, so I've removed the cave and I've done a little bit more gravel vacuuming and made it a bit cleaner. Got rid of all the extra sub that was floating around because I don't want any more of that in here. But the Bristlenose will keep stirring up the substrate. So I'm going to be starting with this corner as I want to plant the whole back before I add the wood, as it's going to be a nightmare to plant it after. So let's do that before. I'm going to cut the stems off the top, plant them around the front so that the back can grow in without looking ugly, and the front stems should start to grow too. So nice and basic, that's all we did. Just did something like this. Now we're going to do the rest of the stems. Okay, so I ended up using all of that on this side. I used a couple of different stems throughout. Now of course these have to face up to the light so they don't look good at the moment, but this is how it's going to be laid out. I also have the Crypt Balansae that's going to hopefully be growing over the driftwood on the left here. And I've already checked and the driftwood will fit in this gap, which is thank God. So we're going to try to also incorporate this cave into the design like I said. And yeah, I'm going to start to try to plant out the driftwood. Okay, so our driftwood piece is here and we have a couple different things to work with. So there's mixed types of boosts. There's a couple different Anubias. There's 2 different Nana types. There's also another Pinto that I just recently received I'm going to try to use. I've got a bunch of Bolbitus as well. And I've got this, I don't know what this is called, but I found it growing on the back of my sponge, so I'm assuming it can grow on the wood. And I'll give this a go as well. Okay everyone, this is the final result I ended up with. I'm really proud of this, so I'm going to try my best to get this in the tank without breaking it. And I'll be back when it's in the tank. And we also ended up adding a lot of the Echinodorus Fancy Twist around the base of the driftwood, and I added this plant as well. So there's a bit of dirt still in here, but I don't really want to do another water change as I've already done multiple and the fish need to settle in. We only have the adult Medaka in here now and all of our Bristlenose, so they're all hiding, which is pretty good. They tend to like the driftwood a lot more. Now my hope is that I can fill out this entire side with Ambulia and cover the filter so that I don't have to see it, as I have a sponge and the heater in the back right. This whole front section is very void and empty at the moment, so if you guys have any suggestions on what plants I could fill this out with, I'd greatly appreciate some suggestions. And as for the ricefish, they're going to be going outside come summer, so if you guys have any suggestions for a different fish that we could add to this tank, preferably one type of schooling fish would maybe look nice, or maybe a mixture. If you guys have any suggestions, feel free to let me know. This is a 2-foot aquarium by Aqua One, so it's like the 65 litre, I'm fairly sure. So just keep that in mind when you're thinking of fish ideas. But hope you guys enjoyed this kind of video. I'm trying to get a bit better at aquascaping in general, so I didn't really know how to go about placement of things. I think how I did the Anubias looks nice. I have a bit of peanut to feeder sticking out. I did not have much of that, so I'm hoping I can grow a lot more in here to spread it out throughout the scape. I have Bolbitus throughout the back. It needs to grow in a lot more, as I had to use a good portion of it to cover this side, otherwise the cave was a lot more visible. But yeah, this is the kind of idea I went with. Of course, everyone else has their own kinds of designs. I just went with a bit of my own kind of stuff I looked at a couple photos of how people have done their driftwood and kind of went from Anubias to Boos along the edges. There's a couple pieces of Boos on either side. Now, it doesn't look great as it needs to grow in, and a lot of the Boos I got for very cheap, and it hadn't really grown much off the rhizomes, so you can kind of see on this is a full grown rhizome and this is starting to fill in, so that's the difference. But yeah, this is kind of my way of doing it. So of course everyone can do things differently, and other people definitely would want this driftwood to go across the whole tank and not have a sponge. I prefer having sponges. It's a lot easier for me to hook up my tanks, and I can have a lot more running on one big aerator as opposed to a bunch of filters on canisters and such. Yeah, you can see the male that's in his cave. He's been in there for quite a while. I'm hoping I can get some breeding out of these guys, and I can make a whole video on that. But I hope you guys enjoyed this kind of vibe, and let me know what you guys think. I'd love all your feedback, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Feel free to comment and like. I'd appreciate those, and feel free to subscribe if you found this at all interesting. I'll catch you guys later. Bye bye, everybody.